welcome to another fabulous episode of How Many Tabs Are Open on Mr. Johnson's Computer. We got 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 tabs for an asynchronous Wednesday. so, um, First things first, we're going to take a look back at our coordinate plane. Remember, not a zoom in the sky plane, but this graph. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to reviewing a little bit because y'all had a map test for the past 2 days. So let's get some review in. All right, so first things first. I wonder once again, let's see if it'll let me do a copy paste. If it doesn't, we'll just deal. But if it does, that'll be cool. So I'm gonna try paste, please. No, it didn't show the picture. That's fine. Okay, so I'm just going to draw the picture. Here we go. So we have, whoa, that was cool. I have, remember, all graphs are basically this. You have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. But this is where the positive numbers sit in quadrant 1. And that is why we only are going to focus on quadrant 1. All right, so these quadrants 2, 3, and 4, you will learn those, but not until middle school. All right, so let's zoom in. And basically, here's our origin. Remember, your origin is the spot 0, comma 0. All right, it is where the x-axis and y-axis intersect. And then the big word, perpendicularly. Perpendicularly. Remember, as far as intersections go, intersections could be two lines at any point crossing, right? Oops, crossing at any point, right? A perpendicular intersection is when it forms that 90-degree angle. It has to be straight. This is an intersection. This is intersecting, but this is a perpendicular intersection because it forms those 90-degree angles. All right, so this is the star definition. A lot of times I've seen that on a star test before. It was like, the origin is where the blank and the blank intersect perpendicularly, and you have to say x-axis and y-axis. So this is your origin, 0, 0. All right. One thing I noticed about my graph already is that we're looking at some spaces between numbers. So it doesn't go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like it's going 0, and then 1 is over here, and then 2 is over here. So there's skip counting. So it looks like we're even going by halves, right? So if I'm going to say there was 1, there was 2, there was 3, there was 4. I think my graph went to 4, right? Oh, no, it didn't even go to that high. Okay, same thing over here. We had a line, and then we had 1. We had a line, and then we had 2. We had a line, and oops, we had a line, and then we had 3. Okay, so what we're looking at, once again, is quadrant 1 of the graph. And as you can see, each step looks like a half, because if this is halfway between 0 and 1, that has to be half. If this is halfway between 1 and 2, that has to be 1 and a half. All right, now let's see what symbols they drew. A sun on 1 and a half. So they drew a sun right here. There's our happy little sun. All right, so they drew a sun right there, and then drew a heart on 1 and a half over here. All right, so both of these are on 1 and a half, but remember, these lines have a special name. So when you're looking at your vertical axis, it is your y-axis. When you're looking at your horizontal axis, it is your x-axis. Remember, all coordinates will come in this xy format. So the first number means you run on the x-axis. The second number means you jump on the y-axis. So if we were going to try and find this point where the sun is, we would run we'd run half, 1, 1 and a half. So our run would be 1 and a half. And then since we didn't jump at all, we stayed on the ground floor, our y is 0. So the sun is at point 1.5, 0. All right. Now the heart is not on the x-axis. All right. So let's find out where the heart is as far as points go. So did we run at all? If you said no, you are correct. We didn't run because we're nowhere on the x-axis. We're still at the origin, right? The heart is up here. We are not running at all. So we have an x of 0 because we went nowhere on the x-axis. See, before we went to 1.5, but this time we stayed on the origin, right? And then how many did they jump? They jumped half, 1, 1.5. So this is the opposite. This is x0, y 1.5, or 1 5/10. So your sun was on 1 5/10 on your x-axis, your heart was on 1 5/10 on your y-axis, and both of them had 0 for the opposite axis. Okay, so the heart is at point 0, 1.5, and the sun is at point 1.5, 0. All right. Now, like if I wanted to put a random point somewhere, I could do that. I could say, let's say I wanted to do 1.5 and 1.5, right? Let's say that that's my x and that's my y. So if that's my x and that's my y, I'm going to run 1.5 on my x. I'm going to jump 1.5 on my y, and then that puts me at 1.5, 1.5. This is, of course, my x number, my y number. Run and jump. Okay, so remember, run before you jump. The first number is how far you run. The second number is how far you jump. Okay, X comes before Y in the alphabet, X, Y, Z. So remember, X comes before Y in an ordered pair. All right, just like the alphabet. We are working in quadrant 1 of the graph. Your x-axis is your horizontal axis. Your y-axis is your vertical axis. And your origin is at 0, 0. All right, so let's go back to the questions. Use the stems below to discuss what you're thinking. Remember, all 4 stems gets you credit. If you use less than 4 stems, you don't get credit. All right, so I notice we are looking at a coordinate plane. We are looking at quadrant 1 of the coordinate plane because there are no negative numbers. There's some noticings, right? I noticed that there are 2 points on my graph. There's a sun and a heart. I noticed that they're skip counting by halves because that's not 1, that's 1. This is not 2, this is 2. So it's like half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. Same thing here, half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. So my scale is going by halves. That's something new. We haven't seen that yet. All right. So they are the same. As far as the points go, they're the same because they're both at 1.5 on their axis. All right. We have the heart on 1.5 on the y-axis. We have the sun on 1.5 on the x-axis. So they are different because the sun is on the x-axis. So the first coordinate on the x would be 1 5/10, right? The second coordinate would be 0, or the second part of the coordinate would be 0. Remember, when we're talking about this, the sun was at 1 5/10 as my x and 0 as my y. I ran 1 5/10, I jumped 0. All right, they're different because the heart didn't run. The heart is at 1 5/10 on the y-axis. We had 0 as an x, so we didn't run, and then we jumped 1 5/10 to get to our heart. All right, so they are different because the sun represents 1 5/10 on the x-axis, and the moon, or the moon, the heart represents 1 5/10 on the y-axis. Finally, I wonder if these 2 points have anything to do with each other. I wonder if I got it backwards. I wonder if I placed more points on this graph, if I could make a pattern. I wonder what the formula is, or what the equation is for these points. These are all things that you can wonder. Remember, the wondering is just like, where is this going? What am I going to do with this? Ask questions like that, and we can answer it in the discussion. So, all right. So, basically, I just ran through the 4 sentence stems. So, if you need help writing the 4 sentence stems or talking about the 4 sentence stems, rewatch the last 2 minutes of the video. that will help you get to where you need to be. And remember, we are studying quadrant one of the coordinate plane. 0, 0 is the origin. The horizontal axis is x. The vertical axis is y. All right, and those are the main points for a lot of the stuff that you're doing this week. So, talk to your teachers if you have any questions. We'll be around. I'm in a meeting, I think, from around 9 to 11 today. So if you need me, I'll be on my Zoom on other times besides between 9 and 11. Um, no, 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 wait, between 8 and 10, and then from 10 to 11. So I'll be available from 9 to 10. Anyway, so talk to your teachers if you need help. Like and subscribe if you like it. I hope that you have a wonderful day. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.